A Wisconsin judge is now being held accountable. It's complete chaos as this judge is dragged into Trump's war on illegal immigration, and she stands accused of smuggling an illegal immigrant out of her courtroom to dodge a federal arrest. And I've gone through the papers, and it does look like there are a lot of witnesses that can account for what she did and how she did it and how she arranged trying to evade ICE, which is federal law enforcement, and get herself involved in a situation she should never have been in. An illegal immigrant in her court who had already been deported from the country and had no business being in the United States was in court because of an accusation against him for domestic violence. It's a serious allegation, and she chose to get involved to try to smuggle him away from federal law enforcement. She doesn't agree with ICE. She doesn't like ICE. She doesn't agree with the president's immigration policies, and that's fine. But she got overextended. She got emotional. She got angry, and she interfered with the rule of law. And you do that enough, eventually you're going to get caught. The scenario of what happened is actually pretty clear. She's likely to get into some serious trouble here. People have to understand, even if you're in a position of authority, like you run the courtroom and that is your courtroom, you still don't have the authority that trumps, no pun intended, the entire federal government. And it's not like the federal government was looking to interfere with her hearing. Their position was, go ahead, have your hearing, deal with your domestic violence situation with this guy, and after that, we're going to arrest him. But that wasn't good enough for her. So she took action to obfuscate the situation and to prevent federal law enforcement from doing their job. So she got arrested. From the Washington Post, Wisconsin judge arrested by FBI, charged with obstructing immigrant arrest, illegal immigrant arrest. Thank you, Washington Post. Charging Milwaukee County Circuit Judge Hannah Dugan escalates the Trump administration's battle with local officials over immigration enforcement. Local officials do not have to coordinate with the federal government, but they cannot interfere with the federal government. It's like the argument of facilitating versus effectuating. No one's saying you got to effectuate, but you don't even have to facilitate in this situation. But you cannot get in the way of and just say, well, I'm an authority, so I'm allowed to do it. No, you're not. From the New York Post, feds bust Wisconsin judge for allegedly helping illegal migrant accused of punching victim 30 times evade ICE agents. I'm sure she sincerely believes that she has the right to try to defend illegal immigrants and that everyone is welcome in the United States and no person can be illegal. And you can believe all of those things. But when you get involved with the power of the federal government and you try to interfere with the federal government, you create a dangerous situation. The illegal alien was ultimately apprehended. He was apprehended outside the court after having to chase him down. But the reason why that federal law enforcement goes to courts in the first place is because these guys get screened through metal detectors. And you may be surprised, but they're not all like great people that don't carry weapons on them. It is actually dangerous to apprehend these guys. That's why one person doesn't usually go to apprehend an illegal alien. You see a team of people surrounding someone. And the reason why you have a team is you do have to overpower them and make them not want to fight. Not so that they surround them and beat them up or something like that. They're not doing that. They're just having a show of force so that a situation doesn't get out of control. So a judge like this will take the attitude of like, I don't care about the public safety. This person has a right to be here. And the public, you know what? We're not so cool with that. We want these agents, if they need to arrest people, if they need to bring people into custody and then bring them back to their own country, whatever they're doing, as long as it's within the law, it's completely fine. Do it safely. And if possible, I would love to see these ICE agents not interfere with court proceedings. Let the court do whatever their hearing is and then arrest people after the hearing, which is what they're normally doing. They're not breaking up these hearings, or we would hear that they're doing that. And in another crazy case from the New York Post, ex-New York, Mexico judge and his wife arrested for allegedly harboring illegal Tren de Aragua member in their home. That's another whole story. I don't know what's going on with these judges, but they need to straighten themselves out. The Justice Department has charged a Wisconsin judge with obstructing an immigration arrest operation, a significant escalation of Trump administration threats to target local officials accused of interfering with immigration enforcement. I'll grant them that because we haven't been seeing anywhere near enough of these. If this is going on, all these judges need to be arrested. You cannot create dangerous public safety situations because you have a different political view of what the federal government should or should not be doing. FBI Director Kash Patel announced the arrest of Milwaukee County Circuit Judge Hannah Dugan on the social media platform X, accusing her of intentionally misdirecting federal agents, which is clear from the papers, yes, she did do that, as they sought to detain an immigrant who was set to appear for an unrelated proceeding last week. Domestic violence. In court filings, the government said that the judge sent the federal agents away from that hearing, then escorted the man and his lawyer out of the courtroom through a private exit, which she did do according to witnesses. Quote, thankfully our agents chased down the perp on foot and he's been in custody since, Patel wrote. But the judge's obstruction created an increased danger to the public, which, look, in one case, in one situation, you might say, okay, well, the agents had to chase him in the street a little bit. So what? They ran down the street. Big deal. It kind of is a big deal because if you do that once, twice, 50 times, 100 times, 1,000 times, people are going to get hurt, whether it's the agents or the person they're chasing or a civilian, just some guy on the street who has no business involved with any of this stuff. You can't put people at risk just for your political beliefs. Other people, not even your own physical safety. Other people because of your political beliefs. How could you get more wrong than that? A judge should definitely know better. Dugan was charged with obstruction and concealing a person from arrest and was released on her own recognizance pending additional court proceedings. Quote, Ms. Dugan wholeheartedly regrets and protests her arrest, according to one of her attorneys. And that attorney went on to claim, quote, it was not made in the interest of public safety, which is the opposite of what happened. You can't create dangerous situations that are unnecessarily dangerous situations for your own political beliefs. Another attorney representing the judge said in a statement that she will defend herself vigorously and looks forward to being exonerated. Dugan supporters gathered outside the federal courthouse in protest, including a retired school nurse who held a handmade Free Judge Dugan sign and said she was chilled to the bone by the judge's arrest. Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley described the case against Dugan as a large performative showing of law enforcement officials and accused the Trump administration of trying to instill fear and hostility across our community. Tyler August, the Republican majority leader of the Wisconsin State Assembly, praised the FBI in a statement and said Republicans in his chamber would act decisively if these serious allegations are confirmed, because lawmakers in Wisconsin have the power to remove state judges. Trump officials took to social media and to the airwaves to trumpet Dugan's arrest as a significant step in their efforts to strike back against the judges that they've labeled as activists, because there are activist judges tying up the entire country's policy right now. Quote, she's protecting a criminal defendant over victims of crime, according to Attorney General Pam Bondi, who said that on Fox. She also said, quote, she puts the lives of our law enforcement officers at risk. And she does. And civilians. And even the people that are going to get deported. They're all at risk when you create a dangerous situation. If you know by definition that the person you're looking to arrest does not have any weapons on them, you have by definition de-escalated the situation for everyone involved in that situation. Bondi also highlighted the arrest on obstruction charges Thursday of a former magistrate judge in New Mexico who resigned after being accused of harboring in his home an alleged member of the Venezuelan Tren de Aragua gang. Quote, these judges think they're above the law. They are not, Bondi said. We will come after you and prosecute you. We will find you. Stephen Miller, the White House Deputy Chief of Staff, said on X, no one is above the law. Justice Department officials have directed federal prosecutors nationwide to investigate and potentially charge state and local officials who impede the president's immigration crackdown, as is their right and their responsibility. The Trump administration has also openly clashed with state and federal judges who have sought to restrain some of the government's most aggressive deportation and enforcement efforts. If we're being fair, they're trying to stop and restrain and prevent all new federal policy, all of it. Judges in some jurisdictions have criticized efforts by immigration and customs enforcement to locate and detain immigrants at local courthouses, saying the practice makes it more difficult to ensure undocumented immigrants or illegal aliens will show up for court proceedings in which they are victims, defendants, or witnesses. And ICE has made a point to say they're not going after witnesses, they're not going after victims, they're only going after people who are accused of a crime and have a standing deportation order to get pulled out of the country. But the opposition says this, quote, even if you are an undocumented immigrant, we need you to be able to understand that this is a safe space for us. Crowley said at a news conference on Friday afternoon, they may be a witness in a crime. They may be a victim in a crime. And if they're a witness, for example, we need them to be able to come into this building and feel safe to be able to talk, to actually be a witness. Immigration authorities explain courthouses provide a unique setting where they can be certain their targets are scheduled to show up at a specific time and date and will have already undergone security screening, like having gone through a metal detector so they can't hurt anyone else if they've already been accused of a violent crime. Some of these guys have a violent criminal history. I'm not saying all of them. Some of them do. Are we not supposed to get those guys through their process and then get them out of the country if they're supposed to be out of the country? We do have laws for a reason. Milwaukee's ICE office, which has made other arrests at Dugan's Courthouse this year, has adopted a policy to detain only undocumented immigrants who are due in court for alleged crimes and not to pursue those who may be in court as witnesses or victims, according to the affidavit filed in Dugan's case. A Milwaukee-based FBI agent said in the criminal complaint that multiple witnesses described the judge as visibly upset when she learned on April 18th that federal agents were waiting outside her courtroom to arrest Eduardo Flores Ruiz, a 30-year-old Mexican national set to appear before her on misdemeanor state battery charges, domestic violence. Dugan allegedly confronted the agents in the hallway, according to the complaint. When they told her they had an administrative warrant to detain her defendant, she instructed them to speak to the court's chief judge. While the agents were away, the affidavit says, Dugan postponed the court hearing scheduled for that day, where the witnesses were, and the prosecutor who had arranged everything to be there for the hearing that day. She postponed the hearing without even talking to the prosecutor and directed the illegal alien and his lawyer to leave through a private jury room exit instead of the public entryway. The agents later spotted him outside the building. That's when a foot chase ensued, and the agents pursued the defendant for the entire length of the courthouse. Immigration officials explained Flores Ruiz had previously been deported to Mexico in 2013. The date he re-entered the country was not included in court documents. Bondi on Fox said the state domestic violence case he was facing involved an alleged assault on a man and a woman, both of whom were injured and taken to a hospital. When you're deported out of the country, you're not supposed to come back, unless you get permission to come back. So this guy really does not belong here. Quote, this judge's actions to shield an accused violent criminal illegal alien from justice is shocking and shameful, according to Assistant Department of Homeland Security Secretary Tricia McLaughlin, who said this in a statement. Quote, we are thankful for our partners at the FBI for helping remove this accused criminal from America's streets. During Trump's first term in 2018, the DOJ charged a judge and a court officer in Massachusetts with helping an undocumented immigrant escape from a courthouse in Newton. Prosecutors said then that as ICE agents arrived to detain the man, the judge directed him to leave through the courthouse basement, where he was let out a back door as the agents waited for him in the lobby. That's pretty cute. The federal charges were dropped in the Biden administration because they didn't take it that seriously. Within days of Trump's return to the White House in January, a top Justice Department official directed federal prosecutors nationwide to investigate and potentially charge state and local officials who impede the president's immigration enforcement agenda, also known as the actual law. You're not allowed to do what these judges have been doing. You know who agrees with me? Emile Beauvais. Quote, federal law prohibits state and local actors from resisting, obstructing, and otherwise failing to comply with lawful immigration-related commands, according to Emile Beauvais, then acting Deputy Attorney General. Before she was a judge, Judge Dugan worked as a poverty attorney and executive director of Catholic Charities of the Archdiocese of Milwaukee. Catholic Charities being very big in the illegal immigration business. Like Stephen Miller says, no one is above the law. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another story. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.